So John, disappointed by the tone of your voice at least after last week's match. Where did you feel you could be better?
Yeah, disappointed with how we played in front of our home crowd. I thought we just took a few steps backwards. Just effort areas, things that were in our control. I thought we probably got Wigan on not their best day, but I thought, they're always dangerous, but I thought we probably helped them look better. I thought, if we had turned up and played with, some of the traits that we've displayed early in the season, we could have got a result, but not to be.
Have your expectations risen of your side already this season?
It's a tough question because I inwardly I've always, with the players that were bought and the players that we've been able to add to the squad since we started, like Will Price and Liam Knight. Inwardly I've always had strong thoughts on being more than competitive with the very best sides. We haven't been able to do that at this stage, so it's just important that we get back to where we've been good early in the season this week, and then results tend to take care of themselves. There's no easy games, and this week will be no different.
As far as preparation has gone for this weekend, has there been anything specifically that you've been looking at then?
I suppose a few reality checks on things. Yeah, just targets as a team that we've fallen away from, and that can happen. Sometimes winning games, whilst you never knock back a win, sometimes winning can hide some things that you've been doing wrong, and that's on us as coaches as well to make sure that if we do win a game, but we haven't reached levels that we need to be at, it's you've got to get the whip out. But that's easier said than done. It's like I said, every game, there's no easy game, so the joy of winning sometimes gets in front of the actual things that you're doing on the field, and maybe we're lucky to win a few.
So looking at the table, people often say after 10 games you can really start to judge how a team's going to be this year. Do you fall in line with that sort of thought process?
Probably not the way the draw is, because there's some sides that you've played twice already. Some of the better sides you've got to play 3 times. So it's probably going to be, I'd say, till round sort of 16, where maybe the top 6 will maybe come down to a fight between sort of 8 or 9 sides. Probably a bit early yet, with not everyone having played everyone.
You've obviously had injury problems and a bit of disruption. Now, without making excuses, how much of an impact do you maybe feel that had on Sunday?
Yeah, I thought it caught up with us. It's in the one area, like everyone, we've sort of had injuries here and there. But for us, it's been in the back row. We've got 4 of our first frontline back rowers are all on the sideline. So we've really had to chop and change centres, back rowers, pretty much from early in the season, so getting continuity there. And it is defensively, it's a really important part of the field, because it's the link between your sort of front row forwards, your middle forwards, and your edge players. So look, they've done a really good job scrambling away to get some results that we have. But I thought against the sides that are that can really pull you apart with their attack, I think that's where it's really affected us, and that's where the top sides in KR and Wigan have got us the last few weeks.
So how are you looking this week? Anybody back?
Good question. Jordan Rapana trained today, but very lightly. So we've had a good turnaround. He was off last week anyway, so we'll just sort of baby steps with him. We'll train Saturday. He's looking likely though. He's a pro. He sort of knows his body, so he's pretty confident he'll be okay.
And Herman SAS obviously took a bit of a knock last week. How's he? Will he be available?
Yeah, he should be. He's got it's a pain thing. So anyone's had a bruised sternum will know how painful it is. So it's whether he can play with the pain. There's no worry about him long term. We've got a week off after this week, so give him every chance. He's been a little bit of contact, but he'll have to do a bit of full contact on Saturday, and then before we can pass him fit.
Did Harvey Barron come through okay? I guess coming back after an injury such as he had, it can be a little bit dodgy. Yeah,
he's had a bit of a history of hamstring injuries, but the medical staff have done a great job. he was more than ready, and I thought, aside from one error, I thought he was very strong against Wigan.
And as far as your longer term injuries are doing, you'll know in a far better position than I will as to who exactly is on that list. But how are they coming on? If not immediately ready, how are they progressing?
Yeah, well, we're hopeful that everyone out injured will be available within 4 to 6 weeks. So we've got a couple of weekends off in that time as well. So hopefully not too many games, but we've got a few games in between now and then, and the roller coaster of footy. You never know what's going to happen. So, but yeah, if we could get a few of those back rowers back, would free us up. With Zach sort of playing out of position, would sort of free us up to get back to, having people in the right positions, or not playing out of position.
So this weekend, your first Super League Magic weekend, is that a concept you think is good for the game?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I wouldn't mind a few of these every year. I've sort of said it back home many a time, just to be able to take the game to new areas. I think it's really good for the game, good for the code. It's good for the clubs, great for the players. They enjoy big occasions, and playing at a big stadium in an area where we want to get some coverage and get people playing and watching the game. So I think there's nothing but positives around the Magic weekends, and if you could slot another one into the draw, I don't think there'd be any problems with the staff and the players. Looking forward to it.
Have you heard much about the atmosphere that you can expect at St James's Park?
Yeah, there's a fair bit of talk around it. It's a bit of, I know the one in Australia in Brisbane's a real carnival atmosphere. It's a break from the week to week of the season. It is a bit of a carnival atmosphere over there. There's a lot of fun in the crowds. The players with their try celebrations. It's a really great atmosphere, and it's a good way to attract new people to the game.
And your opponents, Huddersfield, struggling themselves with injuries. Is it difficult for you to sort of prepare, not quite being sure what you might be coming up against?
Not really, because they've, especially early in the year, they have tested everyone. I know they tested us. We only got there in the last minute with a field goal. So we've got no reason to be complacent. And they've got a few coming back. They've had a few come back last week, and they're going to win games between now and the end of the year. So it can be a danger game, but this week, probably fortunate for us coming off that Wigan game. We haven't really focused too much on who we're playing. It's more about getting us right.
And getting a response, I guess, in the performance then.
Yeah, it was. I thought there was effort there, but it was misplaced effort, and just on the back of what we did with the ball, we just had to gave Wigan too many free chances, and that's not the team to do it to.
And news as well today that David Linton signed a contract extension. How good is it to get him tied down for longer with the club? It's
great news. I think he's been in great form since he's came back to the team. I think there's loads of improvement in him, and it just gives us a lot of youth and a lot of tomorrows with Harvey and Lewis and Will Price and Davey, all in their early 20s. It's a great thing to have for the club.
As far as his versatility goes, how valuable a member of your squad is he?
Look, for a young boy, he's very popular. He knows, he provides the energy for the group, but he also knows when to switch on. He trains very hard. Probably one of the fittest in the club, if not the fittest in the club. And just the upside in him, I think, on limited. The only way these boys get better when they get to this age and is play at this level, So he's establishing himself at this level, and the more games he can get in there, the better he's going to be.
And where do you see him positionally, maybe long term?
Oh, look, I think we rush sometimes. It's very hard to get good quality centres, so I think we rush sometimes throwing him into the forwards. Like, he's definitely big enough to play in the forwards. And if we lose another back row, he'll probably end up in the back row. But I don't want to tinker with him too much. I think defending out there is different to defending anywhere else on the field, and I think he's dangerous with ball in hand. So would like to keep him there as long as we can. I think he's got a lot of improvement in him.
And still maybe keep that full-back option open as well?
Yeah, look, we're sort of blessed with full-backs, so I wouldn't be at the moment tinkering with that idea. I think, with Will there, with Logan, and with Jordan Rapana, I think we're sort of more than covered in the fullback, and we're skinny in the back row and the centres. So I can't see him shifting from those two.
Hi John, sticking with Davey, one of the reasons the club wanted to recruit the likes of Zach Hardacre was to bring people like Davey Linton on. So how much influence has Zach had on what he's done so far this year?
Yeah, he's had an influence on everyone in the squad, coaches as well. You know, you hear about his competitiveness, but he does it in a good way. He's not in your face type competitive. He does it with his actions, and if someone's not pulling their weight, he has a way of letting him know without sort of being school teacherish. But mostly he leads by actions, leads by example, and he's been tremendous for everyone.
We're talking 4.5 years. He's tied down now, Davey, to 2028. So there seems to be a real opportunity to nail down a spot there, whether it is at centre, wing, back row, whatever it is. It seems to be a good opportunity now to say, right, that's mine. I'm going to go get it. Yeah,
he's. The side's come a fair way from when he's sort of been playing, so he's got some real quality players around him, quality players to train with. Like the amount of games he's had, he's still nowhere near the finished product. So as long as we keep improving as a team, he works very hard on his game, and he'll keep improving as an individual.
Everyone speaks about his energy, but skill-wise, what's impressed you so far about him?
He's got a really good catch and pass. I thought he did some good things against Wigan, and he's very robust. He's got size, he's got strength. He's very hard to tackle. He breaks a lot of tackles, and he's a strong defender. He's still learning the game positionally. Defensively, as I said, centres can be a really difficult spot to defend in. But he's been, the 4 or 5 games that he's had, he's been very good.
Just dipping back into team news, is this week or the week after still going to be too soon for Liam Watts? Because
he won't be available, mate.
How's he doing? Is he close to playing? Or?
No, about, like I said, probably we're still 4 to 6 weeks away from getting anyone back.
Fair dues. In terms of the Magic Weekend, you mentioned that you're a big fan of it. Where else could you see it going in the future then? Because there's been a lot of talk, Dublin in the past, and taking it to places where Rugby League maybe necessarily haven't been played before. Is there any that's popped into your mind?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. I don't know the area too well. I thought London probably would be an obvious one, seeing that they're trying to get a team down there established and form a supporter base. I'd be open to suggestion there. But for me, probably London would be an obvious one if we want to get the London Broncos into the Super League and have a good fan base and a competitive side.
Coming from Australia, what's like the Australian perception then on London Broncos? Because they were big in the 90s, weren't they? And they're sort of fallen away a little bit.
Well, the Bronco name carries a lot of weight in Australia, so outside Wigan, probably as well known as any team in the Super League because of that that connection with the Bronco name, and I think they were involved in ownership there, and there was a transfer of players between the clubs back in the late 90s. So. Yeah, look, it's the game is popular in Australia. I know a lot of people, especially now that I'm here, a lot of friends really enjoy watching the game. It's a little bit, whether it's more open or the crowd are more active and vocal, I'm not sure. But, rugby league purists back home certainly enjoy watching the game over here.
Sticking with that theme, the NRL there's been a lot of talk that the NRL are potentially going to purchase a stake in Super League. I mean, what were your thoughts on that? Is that something you'd welcome?
Look, anything that can make the game better, anything that can take the game to more people, anything that can provide financial support for the clubs, so we're not relying so much on individuals. I think that's the thinking that has to be behind the game. For me, I've seen the game evolve at home from where clubs really had to struggle to match funding. So they weren't losing money. If you're losing money, somebody's got to put their hand in the pocket at the end of the day. And if somebody hasn't got the money to put their hand into, the clubs end up suffering. Then the game ends up suffering. So the game has gone probably from the sort of early 2000s to where it is now to be a really, really pretty much a profitable thing for clubs to they can look ahead and make profits out of the money that's coming into the game. So anything that we can do here that even gets us remotely close to that, I think that's fantastic for everyone.
Vegas has obviously been one thing that's been voiced that can do exactly that, bring more money, bring more exposure to the game. Hull SC have been linked. It's looking likely that 2027 could be the year that Hull go. Is that something that you and your squad want to do in the future?
Yeah, for sure. Those experiences are why we play the game. I'm not. It's a pretty narrow view to say that if you're offered that opportunity that you wouldn't jump at it. I think there's so many upsides for everyone, for the clubs, for the fans, for the staff. It's why we want to see the game grow, and also on the back of that you want to be a part of it. So if that opportunity was there, I'd be fully encouraging everyone at the club to grab it and make the most of it.
There's a quarter meeting on Tuesday. Unfortunately, not enough clarity came from that meeting. Is that frustration? Because I appreciate clubs want to recruit, they want to retain, and if you sort of got your hands tied not knowing what you can actually do, that must be frustrating, not just for you but for Richie as well and everyone involved.
Yeah, it is an area that I can't see that people don't see the importance, of this decision. You're talking about clubs that you're turning over millions of dollars a year, so you can't just plan 6 months in advance. You need time to plan to get that right. And I think the biggest part of your squad and success of your football team is your recruitment. So it should be the head of the list to give clubs total clarity of where they are. So we can be better for next year. So that's and every Super League club is in the same boat. It's just something that hopefully they realise the importance of it, and we get a decision on it pretty quick.
Does it need to be more stern leadership from the top rather than clubs saying, "Oh, this is what could happen, this is what we want to happen"? Does it just need the governing body to say, "Right, this is what's happening, deal with it, get on with it, crack on"?
I think everyone wants leadership. It's not about we all have an opinion on what should happen. But we need leadership on it, and then we can deal with it. If a decision's made, well, that's you respect the decision. You mightn't agree with it, but you respect the decision. But we can move on as a club, and so can everyone else. It's just I suppose the not knowing. And then no matter what business you're in, whether employees, staff, you want leadership.
Looking ahead to the Magic Weekend, it's another big opportunity to show what you're about on the road. Obviously, you're unbeaten on the road this year, 7 wins from 7, huge following from the club, obviously going to back you. So, I'm guessing that all bodes for good afternoon ahead. Yeah,
it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. It's it should be a bumper weekend. I'm not sure what the crowd will be, but hopefully we get it as full as we possibly can. I know we'll have plenty of supporters there on the road to follow us, and they always enjoy themselves and have a good time, and they certainly help us with anything, any performance that we've put on the road so far this year. So really excited. Look, it's a real danger game for us. We've got a week off after this week, so it'd be a great feeling to get on the bus coming home with 2 points and knowing we've got a week off.
Hi John, 9 league fixtures in, and arguably just through quite a busy period with Warrington, Rovers and Wigan, difficult games at the best of times. How do you see our progress so far in those 9 games?
The season's a roller coaster. Your ups, your downs. You can play well and lose. You can play ordinary and win. That's why we all love the game so much. Just really disappointed with our performance last week. I've been lucky that I haven't thought that all the way through. I thought there were patches of play where we were okay, but patches of play as you roll through the season aren't good enough. You've got to be good and play to your potential for the majority of the game, and we weren't there last week. And a lot of the game's about confidence, so that does ding your confidence. So that's why it's a real challenge for us this week. Huddersfield will be fighting like mad for a win. They know where they sit, and they've been competitive for a big part of the year. Just unfortunately for them, they haven't been able to get a result. So they'll certainly feel that they're capable of winning this one.
And obviously, with them 9 games in, is it fair to say that now you know the squad, their ins and outs, strengths and weaknesses?
Yeah, haven't had I don't think we've had our best squad on the field altogether. That's the exciting thing for me. Building towards that, and it mightn't happen. That's why it's such a week-to-week proposition. But even with the squad we have on the field at the moment, I'm more than confident that if we play to a decent standard, that we can beat anyone and compete with anyone. I don't doubt that for 1 minute. Not always. You don't always play to that standard. I think the difference between the very top sides and where the rest of us are is that if it's maybe a Wigan or a KR can not be at their best and still get a result, whereas the rest of us chasing the pack. If we're not near our best, we generally struggle to win.
And with that knowledge of getting to know your players, does that make it easier in team selection and developing tactics for the fixtures coming ahead?
Well, you don't, like I said, you don't plan too far ahead. You just can't. You get disappointed, and yeah, it's not about. It's about sort of everyone in the 30 knowing their role within the team, when they're a part of the team. Just being simplistic, knowing their jobs if they get the call. And I thought Matty Laidlaw came in last week. He played 25 minutes, but I thought he did his job perfectly, knew his role. So that's for me, that's a great work by Matty, who grabbed it by two hands, and also to the coaching staff who had him prepared to go out and do that.
Thanks, Jim.
They've obviously not won a game this year. How does that play on a player's mind? We don't want to be that first team to lose to them.
Don't talk about it. It's a pretty negative attitude to go into a game, so we certainly don't address that. I don't talk about that. It's more, it's more just about us. We're not that far from being sort of where they sat, so it's certainly not about worried about. They're going to be competitive. They're going to, without going too much into detail about what they're going to do, they're going to smell a win and they're going to be competitive. So that's pretty much where the talk is.
How much, when it comes down to the nitty gritty on that pitch on Sunday, how much does it matter to your players the fact that you've already beaten them once this season?
There's been a lot of change. A lot can change in that time. There's for both clubs, both teams. Both teams have been through their issues with injuries. I don't really think the difference between the two sides is that we've won some games that were in the balance, and they've been in those games in the balance and haven't got a result. So that can play with your confidence. We've certainly spoken about trying to wipe where we were at last week, and that's pretty much been most of our week, just trying to fix the wrongs against Wigan.
And how much more difficult has it been? Obviously, you've lost Jordan Rapiner to injury last week. You've obviously lost your two starting centres because they're playing in the back row at the moment. Does it feel almost a bit like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul at the moment?
Yeah, it did catch up with us last week. They're just a class side, and their speed is a killer. You can't plan for speed. And when you're playing against a side, they have raw speed. You're nervous, from the word go, especially when you've got guys defending in those key areas. They've got to make decisions. So, although in general we've been pretty good, but KR and Wigan have probably found us out there just with our combinations.
I asked John, I'm going to ask yourself, obviously you've had a few very intense games in the last few weeks, Warrington, Wigan, 2 derbies. How much does that help going into, because this is it's a showpiece occasion, isn't it? How much does that help going into this? You certainly find out about yourself when you play against the best. I was really happy with the Good Friday game against KR. I thought, the circumstance sort of took our chances away to win that game, but I thought we just hung in and showed real good qualities in that game. Didn't produce it against Wigan the following week, but like I say to you, it's such a roller coaster, the Super League. Every game's hard, and if you go out there banking on a win, it generally bites you on the backside. It's getting our week right, preparing right, and going up there with the right attitude. And so finally, it's basically a case of cop the medicine from playing Wigan,
but there are obviously positives out there as well for you to take forward into this game.
Yeah, I thought there were. I thought, with the just statistically what we finished at the end of the game, we were never ever going to. You just look at the stats without watching the game, and we were never going to get within 20 points of them. To be honest with you, that was the raw data out of the game. But outside that, I just some effort areas sometimes come from having a bit of energy because you do okay with the ball, and we just sort of turned the ball over, we gave penalties away, and it was pretty yuck, to be honest with you. So we put that behind us. Everything since Tuesday has just been focused around getting ready for Huddersfield.